September 28th, 2024. Copenhagen, Denmark. Blast Premier Fall Final. Semi-final. G2 Esports against Team Vitality. Third map, Mirage. Score 7-8. G2 trailing. NiKo is alone. 5 Vitality players alive. One of them is Apex, a veteran IGL who has seen everything this game can throw at him. NiKo has a positional advantage. He has the angle. He has the read. 4 players go down. 1 left. The round. The map. A spot in the grand final. All of it sitting right there. He pulls the trigger. He misses. Apex turns around and kills him. And then something happens that no broadcast table at a Counter-Strike event has ever survived before. Nikola Kovač stands up, draws back his fist, and drives it through the desk with everything he has. Not a tap, not a slap, a full-force punch that leaves a fist-shaped hole in the surface and sends blood running down his finger. The organizers pause the match to let him clean his hand. Monesi looks over, sees the crater, and starts laughing. NiKo sits back down, shaking, hand bleeding. 1 round to go on the clock. And then, G2 win the map, win the series, advance to the grand final. And at the post-match ceremony, host James Banks walks onto the stage, carrying the broken desk, and hands it to NiKo as a trophy. The crowd loses their mind. NiKo looks at the hole in the table and says, "Probably an overreaction, but it helped me in the end." Later, when asked if he could have come back into the game after missing that shot without smashing the table, he said, "I don't know if I could." That moment, the broken table, the bleeding hand, the comeback, the laughter, tells you everything you need to know about Nikola Kovač. The obsession, the fire, the absolute refusal to be calm about something that matters. But to understand why that moment exists, why a 27-year-old man with 10 HLTV top 20 appearances and more tournament wins than most players dream of still punches furniture when a round doesn't go his way, you have to go back, all the way back, to a small city in Bosnia, to an internet cafe, to a kid who decided at age 9 that he was going to be the best in the world, and spent the next 20 years trying to prove it. Brčko, Bosnia and Herzegovina, a city of about 70,000 people, sitting near the border of Serbia and Croatia, in a country that was still healing from war when Nikola Kovač was born on February 16, 1997. His parents owned an internet cafe. That detail, ordinary in most places, significant here, meant that from the moment Nikola could reach the keyboard, he had unlimited access to computers, when most kids around him didn't. His cousin Nemanja, who would later turn professional under the name Hunter, was there too. They played together, Counter-Strike 1.6, over and over, against whoever was in the cafe, against each other, against anyone who'd sit down across from them. By the time he was 12, he was the best player in the cafe. By the time he was 14, he was competing in regional Serbian tournaments under the name NiKo, a nickname so simple and so right for him that it stuck for the rest of his career. He joined his first team, iNation, in 2012. He was 15 years old, and already the people who played against him were coming away with the same feeling. Something about this kid is not normal. Here's a detail that almost nobody outside the region remembers. Mouse Sports came to NiKo with an offer when he was 18 years old. A real offer from a real Tier 1 European team. And he turned it down. He hid the contract from his parents because he knew they'd tell him to take it, and said no because he wasn't ready to leave. He had a goal: to make it big with a regional roster first, to prove that Bosnia could produce something the world had to respect before he jumped to the infrastructure of a major European org. The goal failed. The regional roster didn't go far enough. And so in March 2015, when Mouse Sports called again, he said yes. He was 17. He moved countries. He left Brčko, left Bosnia, left his family, and flew to Europe to compete against men who had been playing professionally since before he was in high school. And within months, the team had a new nickname. Not Mouse Sports, not Mouse, NiKo Sports. Because when NiKo was on the server, the game looked different. His Desert Eagle ace on cash: 1 shot, 2 shots, 3, 4, 5, all of them hitting, went viral in a community that didn't use that word yet. People rewound it. They watched it in slow motion. They asked how. The answer, as it always is with players like him, was thousands of hours, and a mechanical ceiling nobody else in the region had found yet. 2016, NiKo's first year in the HLTV Top 20. He was 19 years old. The community was already asking the question that would follow him for the next decade. When does this guy win the big one? Because NiKo wasn't just good. He was producing ratings and performances at a level that made analysts sit down and pay careful attention. June 2015. He won 4 tournaments in a single month. 4. The scene hadn't seen that kind of individual consistency from someone that young before. And every time he played, there was the feeling that you were watching something that was going to matter for a very long time. FaZe Clan came in January 2017, the most star-studded roster in Counter-Strike, an international super team that operated less like a team and more like a collection of the best individual players in the world, told to figure it out on the server. NiKo joined at 20 years old and immediately became the engine of the whole machine. In 2017 and 2018, FaZe were one of the most watched teams in esports, not just Counter-Strike, esports. The brand, the players, the names, Kerrigan, Rain, Guardian, Olafmeister, and NiKo drew audiences that other teams couldn't match. And NiKo, statistically, was the best rifler on the planet. HLTV confirmed it in their year-end rankings. And then came Boston. E-League Major, Boston 2018, January. The most prestigious tournament in Counter-Strike. FaZe Clan, NiKo's team, were the favorites. They had the roster. They had the firepower. They had NiKo. They made the grand final. And they played Cloud9, a North American team that, by every logical measure, had no business being on the same stage in a final against FaZe. It went to overtime on the last map, and Cloud9 won. The first North American team to ever win a CSGO major. It was their fairy tale. For NiKo, it was the beginning of a different kind of story. He was 21 years old. He had time. Everyone said so. And they were right. Technically. But something about Boston planted a seed that would grow into one of the defining narratives of Counter-Strike over the next 6 years. NiKo and the Major. The best rifler in the world. and the one trophy that kept escaping him. 2018 into 2019. FaZe were still dominant, but not the same kind of dominant. Kerrigan, the IGL who had built the system around these individual talents, was kicked in early 2018. NiKo took over the calling role himself, and here is where the first real crack appeared in the story. NiKo as an IGL is a fascinating, complicated, ultimately painful chapter. He is a player who processes the game at a speed that makes him one of the greatest fraggers ever. But calling rounds, managing 5 egos, building a tactical structure in real time, and still performing individually at the level a superstar has to, is a different kind of demand. He did it. The results weren't catastrophic, but FaZe never found their ceiling again with NiKo calling. And NiKo, deep down, knew it. He said it years later. I did not deserve to win a major in CSGO. October 2020. NiKo left FaZe and signed with G2 Esports. The move reunited him with his cousin, Hunter, and brought him to an organization with a fan base, a brand, and an ambition that matched his own. The price tag? Reportedly $2.42 million, one of the largest transfers in Counter-Strike history. G2 rebuilt around him. And for the first 2 years, the results were promising but not clean. The team had moments of genuine brilliance and moments of inexplicable collapse. The pandemic seasons blurred everything, and the major, always the major, kept sitting there, unresolved. PGL Major Stockholm 2021. G2 reached the semifinals. Simple and Navi were unstoppable that year. NiKo played well. G2 lost. 3rd place. The community, which had spent months watching NiKo finally look like he might be in the right environment to win the thing, filed another near miss into the growing archive. And then, in 2023, G2 added a 17-year-old Russian prodigy named Ilya Monasy Osipov, and G2 became something different. February 2023, IEM Katowice, the tournament that had defined NiKo's career in the worst possible way. He had reached the final 3 previous times, lost twice with FaZe, lost once with G2 the year before. The Spodek Arena in Poland had become the specific location where NiKo's ambitions went to fail. And this time, G2 won. They beat Heroic 3-1 in the final. And when the match ended, and the crowd was screaming and the confetti was falling, Nikola Kovač, 26 years old, professional Counter-Strike player since he was 15, a man who had stood on more stages than most people visit in a lifetime, started to cry. He said in the post-match interview, voice unsteady, "This is the first time I cried in my career. I've always been very patient. I hope this year doesn't end here." Just keep working. Keep believing in yourselves. Your time will come. The first time, after a decade of professional Counter-Strike, after every final, every near miss, every year of finishing in the top 20 and still not having the trophy that mattered most, the first time he cried was because he finally won. The arena, which had watched him lose here before, gave him a standing ovation. Then, IEM Cologne 2023, the Cathedral, the tournament held every summer in Germany that Counter-Strike fans treat the way football fans treat a Champions League final. G2 won that too. NiKo's 8th HLTV MVP award. Back-to-back S-tier titles with the best team in the world. The community ran out of ways to talk about him that didn't involve the word greatest. 10 consecutive HLTV top 20 appearances, every single year from 2016 through 2025, without 1 year outside the list. A record of consistency that no player in CSGO or CS2 history has matched. And then, the Blast Paris Major 2023. The last CSGO major ever. The final chance to win the one thing he had chased for 12 majors attended. G2 entered as favorites. They lost in the Legends stage to Fnatic. Went home. And after the match, NiKo sat down with HLTV and said something that landed with the weight of someone who had genuinely processed something difficult. I did not deserve to win a major in CSGO. Not bitter, not angry, just honest. A player who had been one of the best in the world for 8 straight years, looking back at the moments where the game slipped away, and concluding that somewhere in there, the decisions, the IGL stint, the team structures, he hadn't done enough to deserve the specific thing he wanted most. CS2 arrived in September 2023. The game changed. The engine changed. The feel changed. And NiKo adapted immediately. Of course he did. The mechanics that had made him the best rifler in CSGO translated directly into the new game because they were built on fundamentals. While other veterans struggled with the transition, NiKo was posting 1.20 plus ratings within his first month of CS2 competition. 2024 brought the broken table and the Blast Fall final win that came from it. And then in January 2025, after almost 4.5 years with G2, NiKo made the move that nobody fully expected. He signed with Team Falcons, the Saudi-backed organization that had been building a super team with serious money and serious intent. A new chapter, a new set of teammates, and the major, always the major, still out there somewhere, waiting. There is a specific conversation the Counter-Strike community has had about NiKo for years that is worth addressing directly. The narrative that he is a player who chokes, that the big moments reveal a gap between his regular season excellence and his performance when it truly matters. The data doesn't fully support this. His rating at IEM Katowice 2023 was 1.36. At IEM Cologne 2023, 1.28. These are not the numbers of a player who disappears under pressure. What is true is that NiKo's career has coincided with the era of Astralis' 4-major dynasty, with Simple's Stockholm peak, with Donk's CS2 emergence, and that the competition at the very top has been so dense to leave no space for a major title to appear. The narrative was built on near misses, and near misses require you to have actually been near. He attended 12 majors and reached the grand final once. What makes NiKo's story genuinely worth telling, beyond the ratings and the MVPs and the tournament wins, is what it represents about the gap between individual excellence and collective achievement. He is, by every measurable standard, one of the 2 or 3 greatest riflers in the history of this game. He has the mechanics, he has the game sense, he has the longevity. He has the hunger. The broken table is proof enough of that. And still, for most of his career, the major stayed just out of reach. Not because he wasn't good enough, because Counter-Strike is a team game that occasionally punishes even the most talented individual for the structural failures of the teams around him. He carried FaZe through periods where the system had collapsed. He trusted G2's project through years when the results weren't there. On February 28, 2025, at IEM Katowice, the tournament that had defined so much of his career's emotional arc, NiKo played his first event with Team Falcons. He posted a 1.22 rating. The team went out in the quarterfinals. The major conversation remains open. He is 28 years old, still top 5 in most analysts' ratings. The hunger hasn't softened. If anything, the broken table suggests it's gotten worse. He said after the Blast Fall Final incident, "I don't think that was the gym. This was just anger." And then, with blood on his hand, heart rate through the roof, teammates watching, he sat back down, breathed, drank some water, and finished the match. Won the series. Nikola "NiKo" Kovač, born February 16, 1997, in Brčko, Bosnia and Herzegovina. 10 consecutive HLTV Top 20 appearances, 10 MVP awards, IEM Katowice champion, IEM Cologne champion, the most decorated rifler in Counter-Strike history, the player who put his fist through a desk in Copenhagen, and then won the match anyway. Still playing, still hunting. The major can wait. He has time. He always has. And if you want to see more of these cinematic stories from the world of esports, discover the secrets behind legendary victories and massive transfers, make sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and leave a comment telling us which player we should cover next.